Hi, and a great big warm welcome to Ask Zofie, Season 2, Episode 26. Yeah, I just had to double check that. Episode 26. I am recording this on Easter Sunday. Is this the day when Jesus purportedly ate all the eggs? I nearly went into a really chesty cough then because I am getting over some kind of lurgy. I'm feeling much better, but not 100%. So I'll try and not go into one of those laughs, because if you watched, I think it was the Wacky Races, if you're about my age, similar as a kid, I think it's Muttley. Oh, it was Muttley that had that really funny laugh, and it ends up like that. And I'll do my best to not subject you to that. Anyway, today I am really excited to be recording this. I wouldn't be doing it on Easter Sunday otherwise, frankly. And as before, by the way, apologies for the ceiling that if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see behind me. Actually, this might be the last time that you see it in its current state, because next week, this wasn't going to be my behind the scenes, but maybe it will be now. I have the Coving guy, Jim, coming along on Tuesday, and Sophie, who listens. So shout out to my lovely friend Sophie, is coming on Thursday to begin decorating, which I am so excited about, because thus far the jobs I've been doing have been the jobs that just make a freaking mess and cause a bit of chaos, and they're not, what's the word, particularly rewarding, because it's definitely a case of worse before it's better vibes with the skimming the ceilings, ripping out the coving and so on. But the decorating and the putting in new coving, this is really exciting. But anyway, so soon you won't be seeing that crappy ceiling behind me, but for a minute, please bear with me. And if you're just listening, it doesn't even matter anyway, because I could just as well still be in the cupboard. It doesn't make any difference to you. But yes, there's that. Okay, behind the scenes, I had a rather intense period of time because, as you will know if you watch or listen to this podcast regularly, I moved. What are we now? What's the date today? I've got no idea. About the 8th of April, February, March, maybe 6 weeks or so, something like that. I moved, and then I began work immediately on the apartment, and then I had the kids for a little bit longer than usual because their dad was away. Yara was poorly, so she was off. Then it's Easter holidays. She was poorly. I then got the poorly. And so there was a lot going on. And so this weekend, Friday, yesterday, Saturday, is anyone else confused? I was so confused on Friday about what day it was. To be fair, this is not unusual for me anyway. Very commonly, I hate to confess, on Monday, I'm like, what day is it? If you don't know what day it is on Monday, lady, I say to myself, what hope is there? Okay, so yeah, Friday I was like, well, it's got Sunday vibes. And yesterday, I don't even know what it felt like yesterday. And today maybe again feels kind of Sunday-ish, which is cool because it is Sunday. Anyway, I had Friday, yesterday, and today to myself. And one of the things I learned from someone called Alison Armstrong, who I love, she shares on all things relationship-wise, I suppose. And I've done quite a few of her workshops and follow her on Instagram and love her content. But she explained in something somewhere or other that one of the things women need, and she said it in an American way that we say in Britain, potter. Apparently in America that's putter, which sounds weird as I'm saying it, almost as weird as when I say colonic irrigation. But she said that women have a need to just be at home by themselves and potter/putter, if that's a thing. And I am checking I'm recording. I think I sussed out what happened last week with that. But anyway, I don't want a repeat of that situation. And I can definitely relate to this, being female. And also in my human design, I'm a projector. And I say this a lot. If you don't know what human design is, go Google it, get involved. It's freaking amazing. But anyway, I'm a projector, which means that I pick up a lot of other people's energy. So time by myself is really helpful. And my specific human design, when you drill down into more detail, I need an inordinate amount of space. And when you couple this with the fact that I re-energize myself when I spend time in my own energy and really tapping into the divine and cutting out the noise and the clutter, of other people's energy and so on and so forth really helps me. And so these 3 days have been like just air to me. They have given me a life, and it has been an absolute joy. And most of what I've been doing is listening on repeat to a Miley Cyrus song on her new album, and it's called Island. Yeah, I don't know if it's Islands or Islands. And just like twirling around the apartment and working and doing chores and washing and working out and all sorts of things like that. That's been the excitement, and trust me, it has been for me so exciting. And I've had a couple of nights of unbroken sleep and rest, so replenishing for me. And I know I'm an exaggerated example of this. And to be honest, I'm an exaggerated example of so many things because of my personality, because of my kind of makeup. But this doesn't mean that we don't all need this to some degree or another. So maybe this is your reminder to sneak in some rest, some rejuvenation, some downtime, some alone time, because it makes all the difference. Okay, what else do I want to say? I also wanted to say that I got a message this morning that made my frickin' day and then some. Basically, a lovely, lovely girl who I've worked with privately, who is in my membership and who has been through Manifesting Miracles with me. She had struggles getting pregnant, and I actually forget the ins and outs, but there was something really quite, let's just call it major in air quotes here, going on with her physically that meant, according to the rules, she shouldn't get pregnant. And we did work around this in one-to-ones and through Manifesting Miracles and so on and so forth. Anyway, long story short, she sent me a picture this morning of her baby boy who's a week old today, and I had goosebumps literally all over my body. I mean, maybe not literally, because maybe there's places where you don't get goosebumps. Anyway, there was a lot of goosebump action. What a ridiculous thing to say. Anyway, and I just welled up because for so many reasons, but I was so overjoyed for her. It's such a pleasure for me to be involved in, and you can see I'm welling up now thinking about it, to be involved, to play a part in people's journeys like this. And it's like, I don't ever think, oh, I don't like my job, I don't want to do it. But if I ever did, then my God, that would be something that would just bring me back into that feeling of passion and purpose and so on and so forth. But also what it speaks to, and this has happened a bunch of times in my career, it's not something I've specialized in, helping people get pregnant, but I have worked with women before who've wanted to get pregnant. One is actually, and this is really funny because I've just realized they both have the same name, and this other person is a friend of mine, and her son now is at 6 or 7, I think. And yeah, it's happened a bunch of times, but it speaks to what I really want to talk about today, which is the fact that you, me, anyone, but I'm speaking to you, you can manifest anything. Anything is possible for you. And yes, there are nuances and caveats and so on and so forth, but going down that rabbit hole is simply not helpful. It will not serve you. Whereas understanding that this is a foundational truth, that you are divinity in human form. And if you desire something, that is your nudge, your wink, that that desire was placed there in your heart by the divine, and it is destined to be brought to fruition in the physical world by that same divinity. And it was just a really potent, powerful reminder, because in part the nature of it, but also she just sent me this photo of the baby and underneath #manifested, and it was like, whoa. And I'm sharing this with you. Why? Because I want to inspire you, because I want to help you, because I want you to know, like, that's a key driver for me when I am showing up and getting joyful and manifesting things that I want and creating a life that I've always dreamed of, is not only for me, but for you, to show you what's possible. And the mind will say, oh yeah, just because that happened for her doesn't mean it's going to happen for me, or I'm the exception. All this BS. She had that same BS. And I wrote down earlier, what did I write down? Because I just want to share it because it's pretty potent. Doubt doesn't mean you're wrong. It means you're human. In other words, we all have these doubts. You know, the person that's got, I don't know, 500,000 followers on Instagram, they started out with one. They might have 10 years of content on Instagram, but they started out with the first piece with no likes and no comments. And they almost certainly had that same voice that said, who are you to do this? And you don't have enough experience, whatever it might be. We all have this voice. What will make the difference between you succeeding and not is whether or not you take instruction and direction from it and take it seriously and get bogged down in its BS, frankly. Okay, anyway, I got sidetracked. The other thing I want to say is that I officially, so I'm recording this on Sunday, putting this out on Monday. I've said on my Instagram and to those on my mailing list that I will shut the doors for this Sunday night, but because the podcast comes out day after that, I have one space left. I'm doing a coaching package called Manifest Anything, and it's for you if you are really ready to manifest something, or it can be some things or like an overhaul of your life, but if you're really ready to step into it, it will be for 3 months. I'll put the link below, but it'll be for 3 months. You get 8 one-to-ones with me on Zoom, WhatsApp support, access to the Manifesting Miracles recordings, all the meditations you need, and as a bonus, a copy of Love Notes. It's valued at a lot more than the price, about 1,300, I think. And basically, DM me if you've got any questions or if you want to get involved. If you just want to sign up, the link will be in the show notes. But this will be a potent, powerful container, chance to work with me. Not only do I bring to the table my heart and my expertise, but I just know one thing about me, because I've done so much work on my freaking energy and my mind, that I'm like this lucky charm. And all those things combined together, like if you want a cheerleader who's there by your side and who will be able to perceive really quickly and powerfully what's up, what you're doing wrong, you need to be coachable. You need to put your ego to one side and be willing to shift things in terms of what's going on inside. But if you're ready for that and you want a coach to help you, I just have a couple of spaces. I've one space left, and I will be, just for a couple of days, leaving this open for whoever is listening to this podcast. So be in touch if that is you, and it would be my absolute joy and honor to work with you. But ultimately, whether you do that or not, or you're just listening or watching, I want you to know that anything is possible and you can manifest anything. Please start here. Okay, so today, the title apparently is How to Manifest Anything, and the cue I'm crushing on right now, but which I'll get to in a minute. But let me do a pick for us from Love Notes. And I actually haven't looked at this for a little while. So let's see what comes up. Okay, your power doesn't come from action, but acting in faith without defenses. This makes you all powerful. Include me, my love, include me. Your power doesn't come from action, but acting in faith without defenses. This makes you all powerful. Include me, my love, include me. Okay, I love this because actually it's particularly pertinent for manifesting. And what it's speaking to there is how it's not action per se that nets you results. It's aligned action. It's the energy piece. You want both pieces together, the energy and the action, but ultimately where your power comes from is the alignment. All right, so before I get to what I'm going to share today on manifesting, which is broken down really simply, what are the steps to manifest anything? I also want to share on something that I did a whole podcast episode on this a bunch of weeks back, like this both and thinking, and it's something that I'm still obsessed with, and it's kind of germinating and developing in my consciousness, in my mind. And so the question I'm asking on the back of this on repeat is, what else? What else? It reminds me, I mentioned Alison Armstrong earlier. It reminds me of her because she explains to guys that women just get full up of all their stuff and they need to kind of release it, and this is really cathartic for women. And he said men find this challenging because they like to fix stuff, right? And she teaches along the lines of just listen, and imagine you've got like what she would call a trash can or a garbage can, because she's American, but I would call a bin. And they're just like chucking it all, and you go, really, what else? What else? And this reminds me of that, because the thing that I'm obsessed with is this both and thinking. So the divine, God, the universe, source, whatever you think of it as, has the capacity to permit apparently conflicting ideas and beliefs to coexist. Like, it has the level of consciousness to be able to permit everything to exist at once. Our limited human perspective, from which point of view we are not able to perceive the depth and breadth of everything going on in the universe, it's just too much. You know, if you think about how big the universe is, it tends to blow your mind, because it's beyond the capacity of the mind to really consider it. And this is sort of kind of the same. And so when you're able to step into both and thinking, from my perspective, what you are doing is you're stepping into the point of view of your own divinity, the highest level of consciousness, the most expanded and expansive and powerful and wise perspective. So the thing that I've done, because of my personality, again, this is particularly pronounced in me, because I am a projector, as I said, in human design. We tend to be intense and deep. And so I will, like the Miley Cyrus song, I have, let me just realistically think about this now and not exaggerate for comedic purposes, but I probably listened to that song. It'd be interesting to actually know. Okay, I'm going to say between 100 and 200 times in the last couple of days. Like, I will milk stuff like that I enjoy, get every last drop of the potency and power out of it. And so that's kind of like my vibe. Okay, so if I learn about something new, or particularly historically when I've learned about something new, I will tend to go into kind of blinkers on, tunnel vision perspective around that. And there are benefits to this, absolutely, because that's part of my gift of being a projector, is that we do really go deep on topics and therefore acquire this wisdom and so on and so forth. However, there's also a flip side to that, which means that I can end up missing out on other perspectives that, when you add to it, just add to one's sort of breadth of understanding, I guess. So that I remember, like, years ago, I was listening loads to Abraham Hicks, and I also similarly really liked Eckhart Tolle, and I can't even remember the apparent contradiction now, but they were saying, they're talking about, you know, get into a good feeling state, and then you'll attract into your life whatever it is that is a match to that, whatever you desire. And he was talking more about being in the present moment, and I was like, well, which is it? And what I've realized latterly about this, and so many things, so I'm not explaining that very well because I can't quite remember it, but that's not the point. The point is that they were both true. And it's like another example. I would teach and espouse the value of mindfulness, observing one's thoughts, but I would also teach the value in sometimes just telling the BS thoughts in your mind to F off. And it's like they both work, or like there are different types of therapy, and they get to coexist, and they both get to be effective, the same as with like healthy eating and so on and so forth. Just because one is true doesn't preclude the other. And what I found is when you're caught up in the mind, you're way more like, well, it's definitely the case for me anyway, which one is it? And it's like, well, no, it's both. And so yeah, I'm asking this question on repeat. What else gets to be true? And I find that it's really helping to open up my mind and elevate my perspective and level of consciousness. Like I was thinking before about, and I've talked about this before, how you can have some people who are not very nice people. Like, I believe that there's real might and power in coming at whatever you're doing with this whatever it takes demeanor and attitude, because for me, from my perspective, that is bringing your God self to the table, and there isn't anything more potent, powerful, magnetic than that. But it's like there are clearly there are patently some people, a bunch of people on the planet who are not the nicest humans and at the same time have succeeded. And it's like, well, how have they had such massive success when they clearly aren't bringing their God selves to the table, because their God selves wouldn't do all these unkind things. And it's like, well, what's also true, as well as the fact that bringing that divinity to the table is potent, your beliefs are similarly powerful. So if you are a bumhead and you're not bringing your divinity to the table, however you believe in your own success, then there's this interplay. You know, their belief might be so powerful that it takes them somewhere. And for another person, they might have strong belief and they might have their divinity at play. And so they equally go far or further, and they have a different experience. It's another point, but a side point, sort of, so to speak. But when you bring your divinity to the table, I believe that there's always a payoff for you, and full stop, because you experience joy and peace and satisfaction in a way that it just isn't possible when you are what I will just again refer to as a bumhead. But that's another point. The point is, there are so many seeming contradictions, but when you can start to think, well, maybe they can coexist, or how can they coexist, or like that being said, and consider the caveats and the nuances, and be willing to have this both and mentality, and permit them perceive that they can both be true. I don't know if I'm explaining this clearly. Hopefully that makes some sense. But really, what I want to say is, get used to asking the question, what else? What else? I found it really helpful, and hopefully you will too. Anyway, I'm going to shut the beep up about that and move on to manifesting steps. I shared a reel on Instagram yesterday where I said words to the effect of, this whole manifesting stuff can seem really complicated. And definitely that's been the case for me with my deep, old, complicated brain. But ultimately, the nuts and bolts of it are simple. And so I want to explain those to you. And before I do, actually, a friend of mine purchased my Manifest Money bundle last week, $19.99, not relatively speaking a lot of money. And she messaged me on Instagram and said, because she's a coach, that she'd been listening to the meditation loads, and she manifested a full paying client of 1,500 pounds. And this is the kind of stuff that is available, that can happen, that does happen when you work this process. Okay, like I shared at the beginning about the girl who manifested her baby boy, Rachel manifested this client. They are no different to you. The only thing that's maybe different is that they are working the process, which I'm going to share with you. So when we break down manifestation into the simple steps, it's this. The first step is you get clear, you decide what the flip it is you want. And I would start by considering these questions. If no one would get hurt, if no one would get angry, if no one would be disappointed, if I couldn't fail or flounder or F it up, if everything was going to be okay, what would I want? What do I really want? What are the desires of my heart? And so see if you can rise above, go beyond the judgment, the expectations, the norms, the shoulds, and so on and so forth. Like I was thinking recently, I don't have a desire to be famous, you know, like J-Lo famous or whatever. However, what I would like is to be recognized globally in my field. That's a desire in my heart. That's me being authentic, transparent, and honest. I want that thing. And I was thinking yesterday about, like, I love sunshine and the ocean and sunsets and things like that. What I don't love is busyness of airports and being around so much energy and all that stuff. It's really not good for me because I'm so sensitive. But it's like, so I haven't really thought so much about travel, but what I really want is travel on my terms, travel in a way that works for me. So luxury travel, it's like, yeah, that's what I really want. So anyway, I sort of sidetracked to try and explain, but get clear on what you want. And I would say pick one, maybe two, maybe three, but just keep it simple. things that you're going to focus on at one time. So for me, my main thing at the moment continues to be financial abundance and wealth, to the degree that money is no object. And there are other things that I want to shift, but this is like the domino goal for me. Something I learned from Manifestation Bay, where she said, like, a domino goal is, as you can imagine, this big goal that when you get it has an impact on all the other things. So keep it simple. And you can write this out for all sorts of things, but I would just focus on 1, 2, whatever feels good for you. So get clear. And someone said to me on Instagram yesterday, oh, I don't know what I want. And I'm like, I don't believe this. My take is that we always know, but we're caught up in the shoulds and the should nots and so on and so forth, and the judgment, and we're afraid, like, if we say that, we're going to seem greedy or spoiled or whatever it might be. So I think we always know. And if you're really stuck, start by writing out what you don't want. I don't want to be unhealthy. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be lonely. And then you know you want the opposite. Okay, so the first is to decide to get clear. The second is figure out what are all your unhelpful thoughts, ideas, limiting beliefs pertaining to this that are going to block you, that don't align with the thing that you want. So say, for example, you say you want financial abundance, and then what comes up for you? I'm not good with money. I'm not meant to have money. I wasn't born into money, so it's just going to be too difficult for me. You have to work really hard. You have to only do crappy jobs if you want to work. All this stuff. Write it all out, get it all out, and be like, yes, this is great. This stuff is golden, that you can work with it. I said something really cool earlier about that, but I can't remember what it was. Like if you can, no, it came out really well before. I wrote it in the blog post for members, but something about, you know, what you can see, you can shift. And so know that it's like, yes, we applaud this, we celebrate, even if it is 8 pages, amazing, because it's in there. And if it's in there, it's running you, it's ruling you. When you become aware of it, and do something about it. And then essentially what you're doing is you're talking yourself around from these unhelpful beliefs. So let me give you an example. I did this morning. As you may or may not know, one of the reasons I've been focused on manifesting abundance in my life, and part of that process has been moving, which has been amazing. And one of the reasons for me moving was to help with the abundance, and also to make my life easier, to give me a sense in the physical of being supported, and just to make it easier, and lots of other related things, but ultimately easier and more joyful. And yesterday I ordered a bunch of stuff, like clothes. I'm going away soon to Marbella with Daniel, so some clothes and shoes and other stuff I can't even remember now. So I went on an online shopping spree. I'm so pro at that, by the way. It's amazing nowadays. You can just do click, 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 and then spend a nice sum of money. And so what came up for me was, I wrote it down in my journal this morning, stuff like, I shouldn't buy too much stuff. I'm buying too much stuff. I'm spoiled. I'm greedy. I'm too materialistic. It's gluttony. I'm pushing too far. I'm doing too much. I'm too much, blah, 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 blah. And so the kind of questions you can ask to shift this are, what's the ultimate truth? What's helpful? What supports me? What do I want to be true? What feels loving? What would love say? What does my divinity say? Or what would God say? And I wrote, I'll read this out actually, because it's helpful. I'm perfect just as I am, a creation of God, a child of God. How could I possibly be too much? That is never his story. He is always willing for more. God says, okay, sure, what else? Never that's too much. In God's eyes, I'm perfect. There's no such thing as too much in this abundant, ever-expanding universe. So that's part of my reframe. Too much is abundant, and abundance is God's love. It's not too much, it's God's love in action. So what I've done is I've taken this idea of, I shouldn't buy too much, I'm spoiled, and so on and so forth. And a lot of that is based on programming I received as a child, to this stuff that's coming in the post, my new things, is God's love in action. Like the reframe I talk about with money, where I started to see it as it's simply a means of God, of the divine, of the universe loving me, like such a powerful reframe. And you can feel the love in that. I can feel the love in this. So instead of, oh my God, I'm spoiled, blah, 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 it's this stuff coming is God's love in action. Like, how nice does that feel versus the other? And you can tell the difference. The first feels mean, feels harsh, feels judgy, because it's coming from the mind, it's coming from ego, it's coming from fear. And the latter is calming, it's loving, it's gentle, it's reassuring. It's coming from my divinity. And this is essentially it. You're taking yourself from the perspective of fear to the perspective of your divinity relative to all of the crap that comes up. And I've also written, God's love is abundant, only fear calls it too much. So yeah, that stuff coming in is God's love in action. So what I'm going to do is, whenever any of the parcels arrive, and I think, oh my God, the postman's going to think, who's this woman? Why is she buying all this stuff? I'm going to think, wow, this is God's love in action. This is God's love in the physical. This is God showing up and loving me. And of course, you know, some people don't like the G word. Feel free to do something different, whatever works for you. The point is to reframe the crap out of your unhelpful thoughts and limiting beliefs. Okay, then the third step is to feel the feels. So I went on a walk 2 days ago, I think it was. And one of the things I love about this apartment is it is in a really affluent area. And there are lots of homes around here that are beautiful. I don't know, 7, 8 bed homes, and it feels affluent, and I can kind of smell the wealth in the air. It's amazing. So I went on a walk and I put on my tunes, and I was just focusing on feeling abundance and the wealth around me and the money and the ease of that. So when there are these, you kind of want to do these two things sort of simultaneously, not literally, but you know what I mean. So you are working on the unhelpful beliefs, and then you are feeling the feelings. So I think of working on the unhelpful beliefs as like you are releasing the brake, and then the feeling the feels is like your foot on the accelerator. I've talked about this before. You don't want your foot on the accelerator and then also one on the brake. You want to release the brake and put your foot down. That's when you really amp things up. So when you feel the feels, you become an energetic match to the thing that you desire. And when you do that, and you're not blocking yourself, which is what we're doing with managing the unhelpful beliefs, this is just law, okay? The same as what happened with the girl with the baby, the same as what happened with my friend Rachel when she was listening to the Magnetized Money meditation. You can access that in the member area, by the way. And I've done quite a few different podcasts on manifesting money specifically. So you can use those resources to begin with. But when you're an energetic match and you keep getting out of your own way, you keep working on those unhelpful beliefs, what you desire must be yours. And it's the only caveat to that is that it's either that or something better. So I was just checking if I had any more notes. So you can hang your hat on this, as I like to say. This is universal truth. And look at people around you and start to suss out. It's invariably easy to perceive this in others. What are their beliefs? What have they got going on? How does their external marry up with their internal? You know, I could spend a few minutes with someone and I can pretty much tell you what their life is like, from the language they're using, their demeanor, their energy, because outer is a reflection of inner. So start to teach yourself this stuff. Like Abraham Hicks say, words don't teach, only experience does. I am fortunate now that I've had so much experience in my own life and in the lives of the people that I coach and around me to see this stuff works. And I say this all the time, and I want you to know this. Like I said, you can manifest anything and anything is possible. Yes, it might be that if you have lost a leg, you can't manifest another one. There are these little kind of nitpicky things, but really the only thing that's ultimately ever holding us back is our own belief system. You know, before we had the internet and planes, people would say there's no way that you can use something like the internet or fly or whatever. Like what happened with Roger Bannister. I think he was the guy, he was the guy that did the first mile in under a minute. Before that, nobody thought it was possible. And then what happened after he did it? A whole bunch of people did it because he broke through that belief system. And this is just the way that it goes. You can manifest anything. Part of what makes me potent for someone is that I act as this like placebo, because I have such powerful knowing that whatever they come to me with, we can manifest it, that rubs off on them. That's the power of working with someone like me or listening to a podcast like this, be reminded of what you already know deep down, what your soul is ever whispering to you, that you can manifest anything and anything is possible. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I hope you can kind of figure out what I'm chatting to, speaking to in all of my babbling on. Oh, okay, I know what's going to ask you actually. If you enjoy this podcast, would you please be able to leave me even just a rating or a quick review? It would mean so much. I'd really appreciate it. And it would really help me to get this podcast into the ears and the eyes of more listeners and more viewers, which I would be really thankful for. Okay, that's it from me for now. Let's hope that next time you see me, if you're watching on YouTube, the ceiling is a pristine white color. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Okay, have an awesome rest of your Easter break. I think I've said everything that I want to say. By the way, I went to watch Dungeons and Dragons with Yara and Vincent last week. Yara is 13, Vincent is 11. They both really enjoyed it. So if you're thinking about watching that, if you've got kids, then I'd recommend it. I don't know why I'm saying that. Maybe someone needed to hear that. Maybe someone's like, what do I do with my children over the Easter break? But I'm sending you loads of love and really hope that this podcast has given you a boost. I will be back next week. In the meantime, have an awesome rest of your day.